All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. For tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Do me a favor, folks. If you enjoy this show, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to my channel. And for the really serious people out there, I want you to hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. All right, today is going to be a short episode. Okay. But first, let me just tell you that I'm now going to designate Fridays as Dad Talk days. Now, what does that mean? It means one of a couple things. Um, I have set it up so that I can bring on more dads. Now, normally the show is at 7:30 in the morning, but a lot of dads got to go to work and they can't make that time, right? They can't be online because they're like, "Hey man, I'm trying to get my kids to school. I'm trying to, get myself to work, all that good stuff." And so I will either have a show at 7:30, I will have a dad on the show at 7:30 in the morning, or we'll shift it to we're aiming for 6:30. This is Eastern time for anybody that's not over here on the East Coast, or we'll do 6:30 in the evening. Now, I might be willing to do two shows or like two dads a day because I will always still stream at 7:30 in the morning. So there could be, there could potentially be six shows per week. It just depends. So if I have a dad lined up, it will either be in the morning or in the evening, and I might do both just because, sometimes there's a lot of dads that want to get on the show and they want to talk, and we want to raise dad voices here. So Fridays are dad talk. Now, what happens if I just don't happen to have a guest? Well, we're going to do like we're doing this morning. I am going to, I'm going to talk about something dad related. Now, what I'll probably do is make it easy on myself, and I'll root through the dad groups that I'm in on Facebook, and I'll find something that I think would be interesting to talk about, like I'm doing today. So we're going to get into something today. Um, but again, just know that every Friday is going to be Dad Talk Day, and I'm aiming to get as many dads on. So that could be one dad either in the morning or in the evening, or it could be two dads. You never know. So keep an eye out. I've got some guests lined up already, some good ones. I mean, all the dads are going to be good ones, but I mean, like, they're going to be interesting for sure. So keep that in mind. All right, mental health. That is the topic for today. Okay, specifically related to men. Now, why did I come up with this? Well, here's what I found on a Facebook group for dads. So here we are, and it's this question that somebody asked, and he said, it's from an anonymous person. He said, "Hey fellas, I gotta ask y'all something. Do men deserve a mental health break every now and then, or is that for just for women that stay home with the babies?" I assume you just mistyped. I tried to explain to my wife I needed one every now and then, like her, and she says I have one at work. Does that sound right? So I'm going to address this today. This is the question that we're talking about today. Do men deserve a mental health break? So let me just point out something really quick. We're not gonna normally Monday through Thursday, you can kind of expect a lot of research, and I'll give you a lot of sources and stuff like that. Today we're just chatting it up, but I will point out the suicide rates for men are roughly four times that of women. So you got about 22.8 per 100,000 for the men compared to 6.2 per 100,000 for women. I just want to make a side note here. In a world where we frequently hear people complain about male privilege, treating women and men equally, the suicide rate is never part of that conversation. Now, that isn't to say that we want to raise the suicide rate among women. What we're talking about is we want to lower it for men, right? We want it to be as low as possible for all groups. But we are talking about men on this show, dads, a little bit more specifically, but men in general still. All right. So the question, do men deserve a mental health break? And the answer to that is they don't deserve it. They need it. Now the same goes for women, but again, we're talking about men and dads, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the men out there. So, no, it's not a matter of deserve, it's a matter of need. It really goes for everybody. Life is full of pressures and stressors, right? If you're a dad, there's a good chance you got kids, a kid, maybe multiple kids. You have a wife, you have a job, you have responsibilities at the house. You have your own internal feelings of being competent, being able to accomplish and do all these things, be seen, as a hero by your kid, as a knight in shining armor by your wife, as a competent man on the job, you know, feel good about the things that you do. If you spend hours and hours and hours working on your car or maybe working out in the yard or doing something, you want to look back and feel good about yourself. And if things aren't going well, then it ends up being a stressor, right? So these things exist. Now, any one of them alone, well, that probably wouldn't impose a need for a mental health day. But that's not how life works. All of these stressors, they add up, right? Like today, I have my son. He woke up. My wife woke up. My mother-in-law woke up. Now they're not necessarily stressing me out, but they're here with me every day, right? And then I got to go to work after this show. So I've got work stuff. And I got to think about the show. How do I improve the show? How do I get better? How do I make sure that I'm constantly delivering value, right? These are all stressors. Some of them we've added on purpose. Some of them they come naturally. If you got married, you kind of added a stressor. You added, and I'm not calling wives stressful. What I'm saying is when you add somebody as part of your life, that is an additional stress at times, right? Not always. I mean, hopefully not always, but at times. And so the way that stressors work is they're just constantly coming at you and they add up. And sometimes, well, when it rains, it pours. The day that the car doesn't start might also be the day that your wife is in a bad mood and maybe your kid gets in a fight at school. And that may be the same day that you finished a project at work that you were hoping to mentally celebrate, but now you can't, right? Like that's how life works. So it's not an issue of deserve. It's an issue of need. It's an opportunity to clear your head, kind of reset for the next go because there will be a next go. Think of it like exercise. I want you to think of it, think about how exercise works. Um, you go to the gym and you lift heavy weights. Now, that's not the moment when your muscles grow. Muscles grow and they get stronger on your rest days when they repair. So on Monday, if I lift some really heavy weights, I'm really pushing it, I'm, tiring these muscles out. Well, they're breaking down that day. The muscles literally physically break, right? I mean, small little tears. I mean, they're not like, I mean, hopefully if you haven't overdone it, they won't break significantly, but they break down. The fibers, they tear a little bit. And then on your rest day, then they are repaired. That's when the process of healing and getting stronger, getting bigger, that's when it happens. It happens on your rest days. In fact, think of it this way. If you risk injury, if you were to lift heavy weights every single day without any rest days, you are going to risk, and it depends on how much you're lifting, but if you're really going all out, it's only a matter of time, however much time that is, before you injure yourself because your muscles need rest. They need time to recover from the stress that you put them through. Same thing happens mentally. And if over time, going back to our exercise, if over time I lift properly and I give my body proper time to recover, I will become stronger and I'll probably even look better. My wife might even squeal and say, "Wow, you're a hunk." I mean, hopefully she's saying that now. I'm pretty sure she is. But if I lift and I get just a little bit beefier, she might be like, "Wow, that's pretty impressive," right? Well, the same thing applies to your mental health. Your mental health is something that you can actively improve upon. Now, here's the rub when we're talking about taking a day for your mental health. That means, very much like exercise, You are actively recovering. Okay. So I cycle. I'm not really the weightlifting kind of guy. I cycle. One of the things that they tell us in cycling is that not every day has to be a training day. And so I might go out and I might cycle really, really hard. And then on a rest day, I may go and just, I don't know if I can say tootle. Like, does that make me sound too old? I don't know. But I may go slowly around the block, just at a very, very, very slow pace, basically just going through the movements. And that is an active recovery from my training day where I maybe went all out or whatever I was doing, right? Like I'm just kind of getting the blood flowing, getting them going back. Now, actively looks different to different men when it comes to your mental health. So, some men, they might take a day to go fishing. Some men, such as myself, might take a day to go work in their yard. I really like that. For me, getting away from the stress of the internet and people, the yard is where I go. I like to go out and work, and I might actually physically work in the yard. So it's not like it's not like it's a cakewalk. It depends on what I'm doing. I may go and have a really long day where I'm working hard, sweating, wearing out my muscles. And for me, for a mental health day, if you will, that that is my mental health day, right? That's me mentally recovering. Okay. Other men, they might, and I know the ladies may not want to hear this if you're listening in, but other guys, they may have a heavy video game day. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Did you ever see the show, um, House of Cards with Kevin Spacey, where he plays the politician who's like, basically trying to, beat everybody and assume lots of power. In the show, periodically, you see him playing video games. He's decompressing from the day. That's how he's reducing his stress. Other guys might enjoy golf time. Here's another side note. Whenever the media is going on about any president's golf schedule, any of them, doesn't matter. I want you to keep this in mind. The president is literally running the entire country. Running, we're being loose with the term there, but he's running the entire country for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 4 years. He actually doesn't get a day off. There's no such thing as I'm taking the day off. Don't bother me. Hold all my emails, and I will address everything tomorrow. Like that doesn't happen for a president. A president is always on call at any time, right? That's why we talk about like the 3 a.m. call and all that stuff. And I'm not trying to turn this political. Well, all I'm trying to point out is just try to illustrate here that sometimes, depending on what you do, you may need, like a president might need to go golfing, clear his head a little bit so that he is prepared for the next challenge, whatever that might be, right? So we've already kind of accepted the idea that men need a mental health break, all the way up to even the presidents, including the sucky ones. They need mental health breaks because there is a lot going on, but you have to actively be recovering. And that means that you're doing, and that means that you're doing something that will help you level set, right? So let's say that you take a day and you play video games, and the next day you're still complaining about not feeling refreshed. Well, you did something wrong, right? So consequently, don't expect a lot of mercy from those around you. Like if I tell my wife, "Hey, I'm taking I'm taking Friday off and I'm going to have a mental health day. I'm going to work in the yard, just clear my head from everything that's been going on." And I go out and I work in the yard. It's Friday, I take it off. I go out and I work in the yard and I'm enjoying it. And then let's say Saturday I wake up and she's like, "How do you feel?" And I'm like, "Man, I still feel so mentally stressed." That's going to diminish the next time around that I say I want to go take a day off, especially if it's something that other people may not see as productive. So if I take a day off and I say I'm going to play some video games all day long, and then I'm complaining the next day about my mental health, guess what happens the next time I say I would like a mental health day so that I can play some video games all day? People aren't going to feel sorry for me, including those around me, the loved ones that are the closest to me. They're going to be like, whatever, you're just trying to play video games. You ain't like they're not going to receive it well. You have to know thyself. Like I think this is a maxim that every man should focus on. Know thyself. Golfing, working in the yard, playing video games, whatever, those may be fun. But if they don't refresh you, then find what does and do that for a mental health day. That doesn't mean that you can't say, okay, like, you know, hey, I'm going to take a mental health day so that I can recoup. And then later say, you know what? I'm just taking a day to have fun. Like you can separate those and just let those around you know, no, I'm just having fun today. That's it. It's not a mental health day. I'm not decompressing. I just feel like, you know what? I haven't done this in a while. And I got the opportunity, so I'm going to go ahead and have a little bit of fun. Just going to enjoy myself because that's an entirely separate thing. Decompressing, making sure that you're taking mental health days for yourself. All that is active recovery from stresses. So that's not necessarily, I mean, it may be fun, it may be enjoyable, but it may not be. Likely, if you do it right, I would say that it should be enjoyable on some level. Like when I go out and I work in the yard to decompress, I'm actively enjoying it. Even if, I mean, there may be moments where you hear me and you're like, he doesn't sound like he's enjoying it. And that's just because something isn't working the way I expected. But overall, on net balance, I'm completely enjoying it. Now you have to know yourself. And so you have to know what's going to work for you. If golf isn't it, then don't do that when it comes to your mental health day. Now, I personally tend to find family vacations stressful. That's because we're always trying to go somewhere, get there on time, make sure that we don't miss the next event. So it's very in my mind, it's very boom, 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 boom. Got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And so I like vacations where maybe I wake up and I do something, maybe I don't. Right. Like that's my version of vacations. So therefore, I would never tell my wife, "Hey, I need a mental health day. You want to go on a mini vacation?" I wouldn't do that unless there was something that would decompress me, right? For instance, if there was a cycling event over a weekend and I said, "Hey, you want to go on a mini vacation and I'm going to do this cycling event. That's going to be the main priority of the weekend. And I'm going to use this to kind of decompress and also enjoy myself," which could happen for me. Then I might, right? Because then it actually would work. It would serve the purpose of what I'm asking for. And my wife would know. So I keep the lines of communication open and I let her know, hey, this day I'm taking it just to have fun. This one I'm decompressing. Hey, while I'm decompressing, I think I could, spend a little extra time with you. Would you like to join me, over the weekend? Know thyself. You have to know what makes you tick and what doesn't. All right. What else here? So in that comment here, where did I go here? At the very end, she says, it goes, she says, I have one at work. Does that sound right? No, it does not. And it's up to you to let your wife know that work is a stressor, but also what you need that will actually work. And when I say let her know, you don't yell at her or anything like that. You want to be patient with other people, right? That's part of being a man. You learn to be patient. And you say, well, I do love my job, but it does come with its own stress. In the same way that you love the kids, but they also come with their own stress. And sometimes you need a break from the kids, and sometimes I need a break from work. So, no, work does not count. Now, again, if your wife helps you take a day and you waste it, that's on you. You can't complain at anybody else. That's a you problem. One final word here. It may help to rephrase it. We live in a society where people get hung up on words. We say mental health day. A lot of people conflate that, or when they think of it, they think of someone who comes across as mentally weak and not even coming back ready for the next round. For example, this could be like the TikTok videos of somebody getting called the wrong pronoun and then they can't come to work for several days. Right. And they're like, I need mental health days because somebody called me the wrong pronoun. Like a lot of people look down upon that. Right. So if you say mental health day, people might kind of like that might be where their mind goes. They might go, you got a problem? Like somebody call you ma'am and you can't handle it now? And I'm not trying to make fun of the trans community. I'm just saying, like, this is how people are. We have to operate in the world as it exists. And for a man, it may be better to rephrase it, and instead of saying, "Man, I need a mental health day," you might say, "Look, I'm gonna take a day to decompress. There's been a lot going on, and I want to kind of clear my head and get myself prepared for whatever challenges come after that. And this allows me to be at my best." And no good wife should argue with that. She should be like, "Yeah, I want you to be at your best. And if you need the occasional day just to decompress, maybe you're going to go golf and you're going to come back feeling good and ready to, take on the new challenges. Well, then she ought to want you to do that, right? Like she might even say, "Hey, you haven't had a day to decompress in a while. Do you need one?" Like that would be ideal. But again, that's not for you to necessarily worry about if she's coming to you. Your job is just to communicate well to your spouse and say, "This is what I need. This is going to be the result." And then you come back with the results. It's the way it works. Now, whatever you do, be intentional. Don't mislead. Come back ready to take on challenges. That's you cannot say, "I need this day so I can be more prepared to take on the challenges," and then come back and not be ready. That doesn't work. And if you do that, you might get one, what do they call it? You might get one opportunity, right? And and then people might forgive you for that. Say, "Okay, well, maybe you didn't do it right or whatever." But if you do it repeatedly, you're going to ruin it. So come back prepared. And for the husbands out there, I want you to make sure that you lead, because your job is to lead your family. And you lead by ensuring that your wife has a day every now and then too. And by leading, I just simply mean you pay attention and you occasionally ask her and say, "Hey, babe, you've been rocking it with the family. House has been kicking butt on the house. How about I take the kids this Saturday and man, I'll manage the house. And then you take a day for yourself. Go out to the spa, go with your girlfriends, whatever the case, right? Something that gives her a chance." And what happens here? Number one, you're managing your family properly. Number two, uh, you're being a good husband. And then number three, she will remember that when it's time for you to have a day to decompress. She will recognize that you understand that people need time to decompress. So that'll keep her refreshed and more willing to see you take one, right? Because people have a tendency to be like, "Well, you know, what about me?" Well, get ahead of it, men. That's what you do. All right, let's take a look at some comments here, and then I'm gonna wrap it up by wrap it up. So let's see here. Take a look at the comments. Yes, Joe, I wish presidents would take 4-year breaks. We can always hope. Uh, let's see what else we got here. Do to do. Um, yes, rise to liberty. The biggest key aspect of men regarding this topic is that we can handle all of it, if two needs are met. One, that those that we sacrifice for understand what we're doing. Two, they genuinely appreciate it. Absolutely agree, right? Like this is absolutely true. We live in a society where it's assumed that men can take care of it all. But as a man, which is not necessarily true, but it's the world we live in. So as a man, the best thing that you can do is ensure that other people understand that you understand, right? And they will genuinely appreciate it. And when you deliver, they will also appreciate it, right? When you say, "I need to take a Saturday or a Friday or whatever day, I'm going to take that day for my mental health. I'm going to come back refreshed." And if you come back refreshed, guess what? Guess who wants to make sure you have the next one? Those around you. That's who. Because people always want you to be at your best. It's the way it is. Let's see. Any other comments in here? Yes. Another one from Rise to Liberty. If you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of anyone else. You know, when you get on the airplane and they're like, "Hey, put on your mask first, then you put on the person that you are responsible for, usually a child." You know, you first, then them. And now be mindful, there may be a time where you say, "Hey, I need to decompress, but my wife really needs to decompress." So it's possible there are times where, hey, you prioritize her and then you say, "All right, now that you're ready to go, I'm ready to go." That's appropriate. Okay? But in general, as a rule of thumb, if you're not taking care of yourself, you are not in a position to help other people. So you have to take care of yourself. And that means that you have to actively be doing it. So don't just waste a day. Don't just play video games and call it a mental health day if it's not actually refreshing you and getting you prepared for the next day in the coming weeks, right? Don't do that. Do something else. Make sure it's active. All right, let's see. Any other comments here? I think that's it. Um, some of y'all are funny in here. All right, so tonight, 6:30, I've got a dad on. His name is Eric Cordova. We will discuss going from baby dad to toddler dad and how the responsibilities change and how your relationship with your kid changes. So I want you to tune in tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time for Eric Cordova. And if you're a dad, if you're watching this and you're a dad and you're like, man, I got some things I would love to talk about, reach out to me. Let me know because I want to have you on. If you're somebody that knows a dad that's got some things that they could, come on here and talk about, let me know. I'm always looking for dads. Dad Talk is my series where I invite everyday dads on to talk about what's important to them in the context of being a dad. Let me put this back on full screen here. Um, it's not a time where I argue with you. I don't debate you. Just bring dads on. They choose the topic. And this is how I raise dad voices by bringing a man on and saying, let's talk, my man. Let's have a conversation. What do you want to talk about? And that's what we talk about, as long as it's in the context of being a dad, whatever it is. And we've run the gamut here of topics in the past. So I've had guys come in and talk about mental health. Actually, I had one dad come and talk about his challenges with uh, um, um, bipolar, with bipolar. I had two dads come and talk about, hey, my child came out as trans, and this is how we addressed it, and they both addressed it entirely differently. I've had dads come on and talk about, they're an entrepreneur and how they are raising their kids to be entrepreneurs. So whatever the case is, whatever it is that's important to you or a dad that reach out. Let's get you on the show. At any rate, hope that you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel at youtube.libertydad.com, or you can subscribe over on Rumble at rumble.libertydad.com. While you're there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Last but not least, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week and weekend. Catch you tonight again at 6:30 p.m. But for now, I am out. Have a good one.